Let me ask you a question. When was the last time that Jesus kind of interrupted your day? You can go ahead and drop it in the comments below. Maybe you were just minding your own business, you were sitting in traffic, or you were at work or school, or maybe you were at home in your kitchen cooking a meal, and next thing you know, Jesus is teaching you about something. If that is you, don't worry, you're not alone. This is actually right up Jesus's alley. This is how he used to teach people things all the time. If we look at Jesus in the Gospels, we see him teaching people lessons in pretty ordinary ways, right? I mean, to gardeners, he would use garden analogies. To shepherds, he would use sheep analogies. He would also often talk to people around a dining room table. It was very common for Jesus to just kind of override a party with some sort of lesson about the kingdom. And I love that because it shows just a natural sense of him understanding where we are in culture and how we connect with each other best. I think this is a clear example of Jesus meeting us exactly where we are. One of our favorite examples of this is when Jesus does this at communion. It's actually when he institutes communion. They're at a party, and next thing you know, he's teaching them how they can remember him.
It's already boiling. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Get it? Lemon squeezy? I think one of the reasons we love that story so much of Jesus at this dinner with the disciples is probably because we love to eat so much and sometimes imagine Jesus sitting at the table with us, talking to us, teaching us about things. But it is so amazing how he just takes any moment and can teach us a lesson. And I also love in Matthew the way it says Jesus was reclining at the table with his disciples. Just how much community there was in that meal that they were sharing. Something that I learned recently is that this was like the Passover meal that got celebrated so many times, but this one, Jesus took the chance to say, you know what, there's something I need to tell you guys. And he tells them, he takes the bread and he breaks it and he hands it to them and he's like, when I'm gone, you can eat this and you can do this in remembrance of me. And he starts out and he says, every time you meet together. So there's that community element, that's the meeting together, and he's like, take this bread, do this in remembrance of me. And then he takes the wine and he blesses it and he gives it to his disciples and he says, this is my blood that I've shed for you. Take this, drink this, and do this in remembrance of me.
You ever wonder why Jesus chose bread and wine? I mean, yeah, there's some resemblance to flesh and blood, but also historically, I mean, they would have had bread and wine at every meal. That'd be like if we had sparkling water and chicken at every meal, which it feels like we do sometimes. But I think it's because these were staples. They were always gonna be there. And I think this is a reminder from Jesus that he was always gonna be there as well. One of the beautiful things about communion is the fact that it is a moment not just for us to have community with one another, but that Jesus is actually with us in that moment. That it is a reminder of his presence in our lives and that he is with us every single day of our lives. So I think the reason why Jesus chose communion and why he chose the bread and the wine is because he knows, man, most of us are gonna eat every single day, even multiple times a day. And so I think Jesus is actually telling us he wants us to reflect on him and his goodness just as often as we wake up, as we eat, as we breathe, as we sleep. Every single day, it should be a natural part of our rhythms.
So after reading that passage in Matthew, I find myself wondering what the disciples were thinking. Why is he telling us that we need to eat this bread and drink this wine? Then I really think about them after Jesus died on the cross. I'm assuming in those 3 days that they had to eat a meal and they sat down and they saw bread and they saw wine and what that feeling must have felt like. Sometimes when we celebrate communion, I think we're in that moment with the disciples where we're really solemn and we're sad because because Jesus has just made the sacrifice on the cross and he's gone. But I think there's supposed to be a balance. I think there's that solemn remembrance of the loss that they felt. But man, can you imagine the meal after the resurrection? Like after Jesus came back and they see bread and wine at the next meal and just the celebration that they must feel. So I think my challenge to you is the next time that you're participating in communion, that you remember the sadness of the days in between the cross and the resurrection and the sacrifice that Jesus made, but the beautiful, beautiful celebration that happens after Jesus ascended.